celebration, celebrate.
Well, hello, everybody, and I hope you are well. I hope you are thriving. I hope you are absolutely crushing it in this new, crazy VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Maybe we need to include a few more acronyms, a few more letters to represent AI and Web3 and who knows, whatever works for you, as long as you are thriving. And the point of these alpha beta talks is to give you that little bit of a unfair advantage, to figure out what comes next. This is the 7th alpha beta talk brought to you by Alpha Collective. Alpha Collective is a Web3 business focused on the business of Web3. Our vision is to usher in an era of community capitalism. Our mission is to help onboard the next billion wallets via the next billion brand dollars. In season 1, we're going to be rolling out IRL events, monthly vertical masterminds, weekday virtual coffees in the Collective Cafe, and our flagship product, 52 Alpha Talks delivered by 52 Alpha Talk speakers, 26 male and 26 female, or those who identify as such. But to get the ball rolling, we're proud to share 13 additional rock stars who will deliver 13 Alpha Beta Talks over the next 15 weeks. They're free as part of a preview period, but from Labor Day, they will be for members only. Now, you can purchase your membership pass by credit card. Remember those at alphacollective.xyz, or while stocks last, but not securities, crypto at mint.alphacollective.xyz. And before I introduce our 7th Alpha Beta Talk speaker, just wanted to share with you a little bit of an update in terms of a couple of things that you should be aware of. To start off with, I want to welcome two just amazing people. Alexandra Damska will be one of our Alpha Talk speakers. She has literally really taught me to understand the response to why the hell should anyone buy crypto, and is crypto a scam? It isn't. She taught me about control. She taught me about access to capital for the unbanked. She just taught me about really what crypto is. It isn't buy low, sell high. It is actually the ability to build, to transact, to pay a toll, to pay the gas, to build on a blockchain. And that's what we're doing. We're building. My mentor, Rashad Tabakawala, is another of our Alpha Talk speakers that I'm proud to announce. Rashad is doing some incredible work at the moment as it relates to AI and the relationship between Web3 and AI. And I want to release a little bit of alpha for you today. We're going to be launching 12 AlphaMinds, our mastermind product, one per month over the next 12 months. The first will be on September 19th. And there'll always be the future of creativity, the future of brands, the future of storytelling, the future of retail, the future of diversity, so on and so forth. We're also going to be doing 52 exhibitor showcases. Shoot your shot, shill your shot, shoot your shill. It's not shilling, it's not shooting, it's not shotting. It's actually more like along the lines of anyone who recalls New York Tech Meetup. I want 52 creators, sellers, vendors, merchandisers, builders, technologists, agencies, anyone that is actually creating the fiber, the DNA, the super highway that will allow us to build and transact, including but not limited to, quite frankly, Deloitte and Deloitte Digital. We're going to be actually giving them a platform and a voice for them to be able to actually not sell to us, but give us an opportunity to buy from them. Let me repeat that. Not sell to us, but an opportunity for us to buy from them. And that's really what it entails, and what we need to think about. But now it's time to bring on our seventh Alpha Beta Talk speaker. Khusro Khalid, known as KK, is a leader at Deloitte Digital, where he advises clients on the strategic use of technology. His broad expertise garnered from leading digital transformation initiatives in various industries highlights a focus on elevating the human experience, maximizing data and insights, and executing customer engagement platforms. As a leader in Deloitte's unlimited reality practice, KK is at the forefront of the integration of Web3 technologies and their transformative potential for enterprises. Welcome, KK, to Alpha Beta Talk number 7. How are you, my friend?
Thanks, Joe. I'm living the dream. Glad to be here.
Well, it is a dream when you're involved. Sometimes it can be a nightmare, but not when you are involved. KK actually was part of our launch event at Deloitte Digital's incredible New York City, Manhattan offices, and gave such an amazing presentation, even though I think it was about 450 degrees Fahrenheit, that I wanted him to come back here again. So hello to Jensa, who is watching live as we speak. KK, are you ready to give us a reprise, an encore presentation of your amazing presentation?
Absolutely. Glad to be here and looking forward to a conversation beyond the presentation.
All right. Well, I am going to fade into Bolivian and let you take it away, and I'll be back to ask you some questions afterwards.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, grateful for the opportunity to talk about what is near and dear to my heart, and where we have a tremendous opportunity for individuals and enterprises alike. Um, I'm going to be talking about Web3 and the notion of the large amount of skepticism that exists today, and the hype that is in and around this space. So the title of my presentation is Web3 is Dead, Long Live Web3. So let's dive right into it. So to better understand beyond that hype and investment bubbles, I want to start with the basics. I know most of the folks that are participating have had exposure to some of this foundational concepts and thinking. So it may seem motherhood and apple pie for folks that have been in this space for the last few years. But I think it's important to understand and ground ourselves in the first principles, foundational concepts, right? So let's just do a quick recap, right? Everyone understands that when we talk about Web3, it's the huge shift in how we do work, how we live our lives uh, in and around the internet, right? So the Web 1 in the early 90s and early 2000s was all about the sharing of information. It democratized the sharing of information, content, and it was mostly from a perspective of content sharing. Web 2, which we have been living and breathing for the last decade plus, was in and around the ability to not just share information, but create information and publish it. And the networking aspect that was brought to us by social platforms and the ability to create a whole new way of engaging, not between just individuals, but with enterprises and brands reaching out to their customer bases in new and innovative ways. But it was dramatically influenced, or it has been influenced and enabled by big tech, and that's what's you know partly the thing that Web3 is looking to address, which is going back to the whole reason why the internet was established to begin with, right? Which was the ownership of data, the ability to share information, to have the decentralized platform, which is what Web3 technologies are looking to bring back. So the notion of read only to read write to now read write and own. And I added the last piece, which is the experience part. So it's not just read, write, and own, but it's also the ability to experience the interactions a lot more intimately than being able to read content on a website or being on an app that does something. And that's where we start talking about the convergence of a lot of different technologies that are coming together that make the power of Web3 really give it an opportunity for all of us involved to build the next generation of human interaction and applications that support it. So let's look at again what Web3 is about, right? And a lot of folks may have their interpretation of what Web3 is. There's a lot of skepticism, like I said, in the market about crypto and blockchain. And then on the other side, there's the whole immersive experiences through what everyone's calling the metaverse. But to me, it's not about one technology. It's not about one modal way of interacting. It's about the convergence of all these things together that is going to lend itself to a new way of engaging for the brands to engage with their consumers, and for the consumers to interact with their peers in a much more intimate way, at the same time being an equitable participant in this network, which is quite frankly what is lacking in Web 2.0. So where are we? I think 2022, just to be honest, was not the best year, right? And we saw a lot of negative events taking place. Everything from 3ACs kind of fall to the big FTX collapse. A lot of rug pulls, cryptos, that anyone and everyone and their dog had their own cryptocurrency, altcoins galore, right? So at the end of the day, there was a lot of hype, and if you truly understand the hype curve, we were at that that peak of inflated expectations where everyone wanted to make sure that they got in on the action, and there was a whole fear of missing out type of approach that builders as well as the quote unquote consumers of applications and capabilities alike were over excited about the opportunity that crashed with all the events that took place. There were folks that didn't really maintain integrity of the core principles upon which blockchain and crypto is based on, and they used it as an opportunity to monetize anything and everything that they could, and not so much accounting for the value proposition, the interaction and the engagement and the value that they could bring to the consumers. So that led to a major crash in the market, and everyone's very, very skeptical now about the use of blockchain, the investment opportunity in crypto, the applications that are coming out of this. But I think we've over-indexed based on a lot of those negative events that happened, and so let's look at what that means. I think you really get into, if you start looking at the data, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I think A16Z did a really good assessment of the market in their recent analysis that's cited over here. We can share the link as well. But I think at the end of the day, you look at the overall trend over the past few years, there's a lot of positives to take away, right? If you look at the overall market cap, right? Yes, it took a fall, but overall, it's still trending positive since the beginning, right? Which, if you take out all the highs, all-time highs, et cetera, you're still looking at a very, very positive investment opportunity for folks that got in on it. And we're still early days of it, right? The second thing that I think is important to the three other characteristic that I want to call out is the activity around and the interest around how to use the tech, how to use the capabilities that are available to build the next killer app has increased significantly over even in a down market such as 2022 and early 2023, which can be, the proxy of that is social media activity, and the interest has gone up significantly. The ideas, and when A16Z talks about the ideas part, it's about the developer activity in and around 2022 and 2023, which, the cliche, the builders build in the winter is absolutely true, because I do believe that at the end of the day, it's not about changing the way that we have, or changing the way we build applications, and the current applications are creating an alternative to, let's say, a social media app, or a content sharing app, or a creator community app, etc. It's not just building it in a different way, although that is very important and foundational. I do believe that what builders need to be thinking about is, what is the next killer app, right? And that question should be the question that, regardless of what stage, what tech, what are you using, it's like, what is the value proposition that you're providing to your target audience that is novel, that is new, beyond having to explain the underlying way that you built it, or what inherently is a different way of doing it. Yes, ownership and everything is important, but to get mainstream adoption, I feel like the need to determine what would be the next killer app, and then building it using Web3 technologies that are based on solid foundational principles of democratizing access, inclusion, ownership, monetization, and sharing of that return, are all the characteristics that you get out of how you build it. But at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that you're building an application that appeals to the average person who may not be interested in the foundational principles, but absolutely would benefit from how it would be built, if that makes sense. So what are we seeing in terms of, and I could go on for a very long time on each one of these, but I want to make sure that we provide a perspective on what are those use cases that enterprises that we work with are interested in, are experimenting with, and are having some level of success, right? So at the end of the day, building the next killer app can be characterized, or categorized, I should say, in four key areas that we're seeing interest. One is in and around customer engagement, right? How do you engage your customer base in a new, novel way, leveraging technologies that have matured over the last few years, that have gained more traction. As the cliche goes, you want to meet your customers where they are, and therefore, if they are in social platforms, or if they're in social communities, they're in Discord, they're on virtual immersive experiences and environments, they're in virtual games, etc. You want to be there, and we need to account for that. So how do you use those technologies and those platforms to make sure that you're of it. You're not just present there, but you're creating a meaningful way of engaging customers in those environments that add to your what is the next category of how do you increase loyalty to your brands. I think Nike has done a phenomenal job of that, right? And they're the poster child of how to best use, and everything from NFT to 3D capabilities and building more and more of a loyal customer base that, regardless of the physical or the virtual nature of the product, there's a following, there's an appetite to continue to be a Nike loyalist, etc. And that's what's key. Um, we've heard of, we've all heard about the Starbucks Odyssey program. It's in beta. It's been piloted. Uh, it's being looked out as the way loyalty of the future is going to work. How that plays out remains to be seen, but I think there is a tremendous opportunity for any enterprise that want to maintain long-term relationships with their customer bases to adopt a more equitable way of engaging their customers, um, not having them be coin operated, having them be more influential in decision making of whether it's the next product or campaign or content creation, etc. That's true loyalty, and I think that will have a lot intimate and a lot fruitful return for both the consumer and the brand alike. We've already seen payments taken to the next level, right? Again, there is an opportunity for all brands that are selling products to be available in these environments, but support the way that a buyer wants to buy their product. So you can't, regardless of your position around blockchain or crypto, and as as a store of value, if your customers are using that or wanting to use it as a way to buy from you, you need to be able to support it, right? And so therefore, payments is quite frankly table stakes in terms of making sure that you are not losing out on the opportunity to engage, especially with the Gen Zs, millennials, and the next generations, to be able to support all kinds of ways in which they want to buy from you. Um, sorry. So and lastly, and I won't get into this in a lot more detail, but I think the true value in terms of transparency and being able to showcase uh, or communicate to your buyers where you've sourced your products all the way to how it gets to the shelf and in their homes, etc. There's an opportunity to use the transparency and the integrity of the blockchain to make sure that folks can create a lot more trust in terms of how the product's getting to them, right? And therefore, supply chain can definitely benefit from the use of blockchain and adjacent technologies. And I'll get into a little bit, just kind of switching gears a little bit over here, right? The other key part that is very, very encouraging is the wider adoption of Web3 by not just big tech, but also big financial institutions and enterprises alike. This is a, a key pivot from a few years ago where big tech was not really too keen on investing or building their products or supporting the Web3 and the blockchain community. But what we've seen, whether it's Salesforce, Shopify, Google, and we as Deloitte partner with all of them, they've all made significant investments in building and expanding their product portfolio to be able to support what they do see as the future of building product, right? So you've seen, and we partner with Salesforce, and we'll talk a little bit about that. That it's no longer a should we do it. It's more of a we need to be able to support these emerging platforms, these emerging use cases, and to be able to do it in a manner that is seamless for our enterprise clients, so that they don't feel left out, right? Because there's a lot of action in the startup community and small mom and pop shops that have a lot more agility and can experiment a lot more quicker. But the enterprises, in order for them to be competitive, need their partners in the big tech to be able to provide the right platform so that they can also benefit from the tech. And that's what we're seeing with the big tech also. So what are we doing from a Deloitte standpoint? As Joe talked about, I'm part of our unlimited reality practice, where you can go to the URL and learn more about unlimited reality. But unlimited reality is all about where we see the convergence of spatial computing, AI, blockchain, decentralized platforms, all converging to create the new way of engaging, right? And that's what we're calling unlimited reality. If you go to the link, you'll see how we've organized and how we see the market and where do we play. One key and one thing that I would just say is this is not pie in the sky. It's something that we have actually gotten production with our clients, our great clients that have seen the value and are also now reaping the benefits. One key client in that regard is H. Mosier, which is a high-end luxury brand, where we partnered with them on what was a very bold and innovative way of selling their high-end watches to a very, very loyal community in Europe. And that was done in collaboration with, like I said, Salesforce, Crossman, Zurich, or a blockchain consortium. All these different parties coming together with their respective pieces of the pie to build what is, quite frankly, a very engaging customer experience that builds on the product itself, that is a high-end luxury watch, but the community that is in and around it greatly benefits from the underlying tech, and I'll show you what and how. This is so, like I said, loyal community. The sense of community is prevalent, obviously, with the networking and everything that happens on social media, etc. But H. Mosier actually built a 3D immersive experience, the Chalet. There's a video of this. Unfortunately, I couldn't show it, but this is a chalet, a Swiss chalet that actually has your ability to kind of go in, see all their products in there, interact with folks that are part of that community, and you become part of that community by buying their watch, which is a very exclusive watch. Only, I think, 5,000 were made in total, and it is a very awesome design with a QR code on the dial. So, but the key part of all of that, in terms of how you create that experience, and use the underlying technology, this truly manifested the core foundational principles of decentralization and blockchain and ownership, right? So everyone wants or aspires to be able to do this, and H. Mosier was able to do it, right? Which is when you buy that watch from Mosier, your proof of ownership is written on the blockchain. The warranty, the terms and conditions, the security, and warranty, etc., is all available through the blockchain. And you have an app in which you interact with not just Mosier, but also by way of holding that watch, you have access to exclusive events, promotions, content, a whole bunch of opportunities to be part of that exclusive community. I wouldn't get into the details, but one thing that I will call out here is that it's not just about tech. It's about making sure that as an enterprise, when you want to create that experience for your customers, you need to make sure that you look at it from all different perspectives, right? So the digital, whether it's building the app or the solution and the architecture and leveraging blockchain technologies, all the way to how the legal implications, the terms and conditions, policy, IP, et cetera, are managed, to how you do AML and KYC from a financial standpoint, right? Validation of the proof, et cetera. Tax implication. All of those are important when you provide an asset that someone buys, and then it has the use of blockchain on the back of it. It's not just about being able to codify it. It's about making sure that you check all the boxes to be able to do this, do justice to all the different requirements from a regulatory, legal, and financial standpoint. The other one last thing that I would say, and then we can have a Q&A. The other key thing that we've done very recently, and we launched this in Barcelona at the Mobile World Congress early in the year, is again a demonstration of how you bring the physical and the virtual worlds together, leveraging immersive technologies, creating the concept of token gating, not just using NFTs as a collectible, as an asset, but also a token that gives you access to exclusive events and areas where you can create content or consume exclusive content, engage with exclusive communities, etc., which again, like I talked about earlier, are all characteristics of the new way of building loyalty programs and engagement models. But we wanted to manifest that in a conference style setting where the attendee experience could benefit from all different characteristics pulled together. And we called it the Mirror World. We launched it in late February when the Mobile World Congress was held. So great experience. There's a video on that. We'll share that with you all as well. But to me, the key takeaway is when we're looking at a way to continue to have that in real life experience, whether it's kind of a booth that is manned by a person, and the attendees having to use them as a way to learn more information and interact and get to know each other, etc., versus the webinar or online way of interacting and engaging. The combination of that is where we see the sweet spot, right? Which is, how do you make sure that you have no constraints on real estate, right? You can engage a larger community, but not lose the intimate interaction that you could have. And that's what we demonstrated with the Mirror World, and we can share more about it. So a couple examples of, just for the folks listening in, that this is real, that we're engaging our clients on it, and there's true value to be gained out of it. The one thing that I would close out on is this a revolution or an evolution, right? My perspective is it is a revolution in terms of a paradigm shift from Web 2 to Web 3, but it's going to happen incrementally. And I think that's where builders need to have the patience, the resilience, the ability to, the stick-to-itiveness, right? To make sure that you focus on building things that your target audience truly need and demand, and build it in a way that lends itself to the future, right? And I think the future is strong with Web3, and I think it's going to benefit the consumers and the enterprises alike. So with that said, Joe, if you're still there.
I am, but first of all, the crowd wants to just pay their respects and appreciate you and your contribution. You and I, the first time we saw the slide, that was awesome. We debated revolution or evolution, and I think you've evolved and I've revolved, or maybe vice versa. It's a little bit of both, right? It's the thing about change, as you know, right? It happens slowly until it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
It takes a while, and then one day you look back. I always use the example of there was a time when you'd go to a concert, you'd go to a rock concert, and they'd say no flash photography and no videography, and if you had a camera or a handy cam, whatever the hell they called it, they'd confiscate it. Exactly. And then can you imagine go to Taylor Swift now and confiscating 85,000 phones? Just not going to happen.
Absolutely. And that's now the norm. And that's the more eyeballs on the concert outside of folks that are there, right? So imagine the next concert, right? More people show up.
Well, I mean, there's and that's the point, right? The point is, let's just switch to our fireside chat where it gets nice and warmer in here as well. Strategically as well, there really is a method to the madness. I've always said, with respect to Broadway, I do not understand why, when they do their curtain call and maybe an encore number, they don't just say, all right, everybody, take out your phones now and record, because they know that they're going to share that content. And instead of like trying to how many times have you been and you're like hiding it underneath your arm or trying not to get thrown out the theater? So it really can extend, amplify, enhance, and help you grow your brand by embracing technology.
Absolutely. 100%.
I saw something that I really loved in your presentation, and I basically articulated with the idea of how it helps versus how it works. It's less important about how it works and governance and sovereignty and KYC, which sounds sexual. But what is more important is that it can actually solve a problem or enhance a relationship or deepen a relationship. And actually, she said, with respect to Moza, I like the concept of buying an actual product and having the proof of purchase recorded on the blockchain, especially a high-end product, and having other perks go along with it.
Right.
So I guess I have a question for you, KK, which is like one of the things I always ask is did Web3 have to be involved in that particular execution? Could it have been done without Web3? Or maybe the third way to ask the question is, what does Web3 bring to the table that everything before it couldn't bring to the table?
Yeah, I think so. I have a very simple perspective on it. I get that question a lot. Does this have to be Web3? And the answer is no. You can build anything you want to using any kind of technology available. And if you have Web2 technologies, you will absolutely go ahead and build it. But the thing with Web2 versus Web3 is again the characteristics of the technology, the principles, the foundational elements that are baked and inherent in the technology that you don't have to worry about, right? So now, take an example, right? So you said, hey, if we were to go build X versus Y on Web2 versus Web3, I would say the requirement, right? If the requirement is to say you need to have ownership of that asset recorded and made available for anyone to validate, etc. Now, as a Web2 builder, I would need to go build that out and make sure that I give everyone the visibility and not have it be stored in my database, locked in behind a firewall, right? I'm not going to account for that if I just build it the good old fashioned way, right? This will need to be a requirement, which again in Web3 is not the case, right? So you're essentially going to build the capability when you write it on the blockchain. By default, it is available for anyone to validate, right? And therefore it lends itself to that requirement. Now, if you argue that I don't want to have that requirement, then you're saying that the the applications are inherently different, right? But my take on this is everyone needs to understand those foundational principles, but you can't build products with those foundational principles and try to sell those to the mainstream user, because the mainstream user is uh, not too concerned, at least at this point, and not genuinely concerned of all those different details. All they want is the best experience, right? First, then they will get to the part where um, that, if they feel like they don't have the right level of trust, the right level of exchange and the value return, then they will want that, but they're not going to buy a product right out the gate for those reasons alone. They want a good product first.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then there are some principles and practices that are endemic to Web3 that just make this revolutionary and not necessarily evolutionary, like the secondary market, like
Exactly.
creator royalties. You know, I've tried to even explain it with respect to Alpha Collective. I'll say to people, but you don't like, it's almost like, but you don't understand. This isn't like buying an association or buying membership to some mastermind and you're stuck with it and you can't sell it and you can't transfer it. Not only can you sell it and transfer it, but you might even make money in the process, because ultimately the value of it is now determined based on the floor and based on not just the current members that want to let go or don't want to let go, but people that want to come in.
Yep.
And you know what I've realized even in listening to you today is the only way that someone's ever going to actually understand the power of that is to experience it themselves. Like
Right.
I can say that to them until the cows come home. They'll never quite understand what happens, what it means to actually use something, derive utility from it for, let's say, 3 months. And I can actually double my money. Not that it's about the money, but when you suddenly realize that, I mean, what are we dealing with at the end of the day? We're dealing with just, price and quality and perceptions and value. And that's really the essence of it, is a different way to express and trade in value.
True. Very true. Absolutely.
So I wanted to. There were a few things that I was just noting, but this is something that actually we do a morning virtual coffee. It's part of Alpha Collective in the Collective Cafe. It's virtual coffee. It is audio first, because if it wasn't audio first, we don't want to. At the best of times, we don't look good even at our prime. I mean, look at me today. But but in the morning, we don't necessarily want to see each other or be seen. So if you want to come and join our virtual coffees, just go to discord.gg/Alpha Collective. We do this in Discord and on Clubhouse. But this morning we discussed this, KK. And it was Tom Goodwin's point of view. And he was really kind of, he's being a Web3 contrarian. I love the Web3 contrarians. We need more of them as well. And this is a chart that says the speculation on the metaverse was astonishing. Now, you know, he showed various projections, and obviously I saw Deloitte there. It says 2035 Asia. I'm not sure whether that means only in Asia or whether it's Deloitte Asia. But suddenly I looked at it and I was like, well, wait a second. Am I dyslexic? We're 2023 at the moment, not 2035. How on earth can you make any claims in terms of criticizing a projection when in actual fact we're looking at 12? Hell, we don't even know if the world will exist next year. Did anybody see the 2020 coming, and bats and so what are your thoughts about, when we look at the hype of the metaverse, or at least the criticism of the hype of the metaverse? You're living in it, you're building in it. What is real and what is not?
Yeah. So first of all, I think I appreciate that contrarian voice, because that's the filter that we need to make sure that products that are uh, truly valuable, right, and the value propositions that really mean something to the audiences actually make it far, right, as opposed to everyone pushing on the hype, and then it creates a bubble. And we've lived through this for folks that have been in the space long enough, right? With the dot-com bubble, there's I would say a lot more contrarians at that time, right? And there was a lot of unsuccessful endeavors as well, right? So I do think that you got to look at it in totality, right? Which is there's going to be great ideas that fail because of execution. There are going to be great ideas that are too early, right? Because the technology isn't there and doesn't lend itself for what is being intended. And then there's going to be just ideas that are not that great, right? And they will be, they'll go down by the wayside. I think when you look at the projections, whether it's Deloitte, McKinsey, or anybody else, is based on how something like something as disruptive as blockchain or immersive and spatial web is going to have an impact on our lives, right? And then you start looking at it, and then you start to break it down. From my perspective, it's if you really get down to meat and potatoes, it's like whatever it is that you're doing today, right? Whether it's a marketing campaign right now or building a product, right, for your sales organization or what have you, you're looking at innovation and looking at the innovation opportunities. You're going to start to use the tech available to you. So the way I look at these numbers and these projections, I feel like it is inevitable that these tech and capabilities are going to be adopted in all aspects of our lives, enterprises use cases to consumer use cases alike. And therefore, if you were to quantify that, right, you would get to these bigger numbers, right? But it doesn't discount the need for it, right? And it doesn't discount or eliminate the unsuccessful ventures that will happen along the way. It just says that the opportunity is there, and therefore, it's no action is worse than any action, right? Right. You've got to experiment. You got to figure out, and you might pivot a couple of times till you land on what is the ideal use case of what you're trying to do. But it is going to be a growth oriented exercise as opposed to, trying to use tech for the sake of tech, or it has to be.
I mean, those you dropped so many gems there that I had to go to my resident air horn. First of all, this idea of innovation opportunities. I love that concept. It's actually very subtle, but these are all opportunities to be innovative. And if you understand what the definition of innovation is, it is about essentially the antidote to insanity. It is about doing things differently to change the game. So I really appreciate that. The other thing, and something that we've been discussing in the Collective Cafe, is goes back to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, which is no decision is worse than any decision,
Right.
or the wrong decision, or sometimes even, and this is like fascinating to me, which is rather make the wrong decision quickly than no
Yeah.
decision at all. And
Right.
so I I think if people are watching this, there's a really powerful takeaway, which is you will never know, you will never understand, you will never appreciate, you will never be able to make your mind up for yourself unless you experience it yourself. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, you end up reading people's blog posts and LinkedIn posts and even books by people like myself. And who's to say whether any of us know what we're talking about? That's
Right.
why I like uh, KK, the point that you said. The builders are build, the builders build, the builders build, the builders are building, and stay close to the builders as opposed to the prognosticators
Yep.
of and about the builders.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely. I mean, we Amazon.com, right? That's what success could look like, right? If things play out, right? So the contrarian need to also account for the successes that do happen with any emerging tech or any innovative opportunity, right? So back in the .com, there's a lot more .coms that provided something and didn't really evolve, and they're no longer around. But ones that did ended up becoming the darlings and became the poster child of success, right? And that's what we're saying. We're saying start with something small, experiment, and then adjust, recalibrate with every iteration, and figure out what you need to do to make successful. If you base it off of other people's um, uh, experiences, it will still not be. You're still taking a huge risk because the context is still different, right? Even if you're in the same space.
I would almost just kind of add a final thought there, which is be prepared to admit when you're wrong, but also be prepared to admit when others are right. So it's got to be consistent. KK, we have just a few seconds left, and I wonder what's your message to brands? I mean, I think we've kind of discussed it, but what's a parting message? A little bit of advice to the big brands, the blue chip brands, the people that are sitting on the fence right now that have either turned their back on Web3 or are cautious to come back into Web3. What do you tell them?
I think what I would say is skepticism is good, right? But inaction is bad, right? So you've got to balance the two, right? And it's a matter of saying you've got to have a growth strategy, you got to have an innovation strategy, right? That means someone or some group in your enterprise needs to be kicking the tires on these emerging tech, these capabilities, and figuring out whether they're applicable to you or not, right? And you need to be able to then, based off of their experiments, determine whether you double down or pull out, right? And without getting into specific use cases, um, that's the general message, right? And you'll see success in increments, right? Not a giant, hey, we did like a lot of the quote unquote digital transformational work that happens in enterprises is all about cleaning up legacy tech debt, legacy systems that have been accumulated over time, right? That those are all with a focus on operational efficiencies, et cetera. But the growth comes in terms of how you build new products, physical or digital. How do you engage customers in newer ways? How do you account for the changing demographic and the changing expectations and the change in buyer mentality and the buyer itself, right? Your buyer of right now is not going to be the same 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And therefore the kid that's got their headphones on and living the life in Fortnite is going to be a decision maker, a policy maker, a buyer. And therefore, if they value a digital asset and a digital community and an experience that is immersive but virtual, they will appreciate things that are in their current quote unquote radar, as opposed to someone that is a baby boomer or a Gen Xer, right, and have different values and different expectations, right? So I think it's only a matter of time when the generational change in the buyer mentality, right, is going to make a significant difference in how enterprises operate.
Today's skeptic and contrarian is 2035's decision maker, buyer, and living large in the metaverse. Web3 is dead. Long live Web3. Thanks so much, KK. I appreciate you coming in and delivering one of our Alpha Beta talks.
Thanks, Joe. Much appreciated.
I muted you like 1 second too late, but yeah, no, the pleasure was mine, my friend. I was just about to very subtly go to this.